Hello, my name is Michael Fanjoy, and I am the Vice President of Clinical Services here at Adult and Teen Challenge of Pennsylvania. Today, we will be discussing training titled Break the Cycle Hope for Children with Parents Challenged by Addiction. In this discussion, we are going to be talking about the effects of addiction on children whose parents are affected by drug and alcohol addiction. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to talk about some of the facts in regards to this subject. One of the facts is that one in every child growing up in a home with a loved one suffers from alcoholism. So one in every four children. And another fact is in the last 20 years, research has identified trauma and stress on the developing brain of children who live in this type of environment and what it does to them throughout their life. Another fact in regards to this matter is as a loved one, friends, or neighbor of a child of someone who is addicted, you can feel helpless in trying to make things better, but there are always ways to help. The main objectives of this training are to discuss the child's view of their family members who are struggling with substance use, to discuss some misconceptions of the family cycle of addiction, and to provide some understanding, tools, and hope for future of our children. Let's look at a little bit of what the child's view is in regards to having parents that may be struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. Some children seem to have a secret wish for someone to call their bluff, so to speak, when they have been affected by this and are distancing themselves from their parents. This desire to call their bluff compels them to reconnect with the parent they claim to hate. Despite strongly held positions of alignment, alienated children want nothing more than to be given permission and freedom to love and be loved by both parents in these types of situations. Other parts of the child's view of this are the child's fear that the addicted parent may fall apart or withdraw his or her love tends to hold them back. Research has shown that many of these children can transform quickly from resisting the rejected parent to be able to receive love from that parent with time. In the next slide, we are going to continue looking at what the child's view is. Parents who are addicted can feel the hostility and rejection of their children. These children may seem disrespectful and devaluing of their parents. Yet it is important to realize that from a child's perspective, it is the targeted parent who has rejected them, not the child rejecting the parent, but the parent rejecting the child. They have been led to believe that the parent who they are rejecting does not love them, is unsafe, and has abandoned them. And then the sense of abandonment sets in and can be really damaging in this relationship and in the child. Thus, the primary response of the alienated parent must always be one of loving compassion, emotional availability, and absolute safety. Patience, hope, unconditional love, and being there for the child is the best response that addicted parents can provide to their children. Now we're going to look at 5 common misconceptions when addressing these types of situations. The first misconception that I would like to discuss today is the misconception that excessive substance or alcohol use creates dysfunctional families. In most cases, substance use develops as a result of suppressed emotional expression, underlying trauma, hurt, and/or pain developed within the family system. There are usually multiple factors that lead to family dysfunction. Just as family dysfunction is a result or symptom of these factors, so is substance use. Substance use is a means to provide relief to these symptoms, but it is not the root cause. Difficulty with development during childhood can result in a lack of healthy identity, behavior, and emotion expression in the following areas: underdeveloped emotional expression, self-esteem, unhealthy bonding patterns, avoidance, abuse, trauma, doubt, insecurity, feelings of abandonment, rejection, confusion, mixed messages, anger, fear, guilt, unstable home environment, and so on. These are the underlying factors that really contribute to family dysfunction. And a lot of times the substance use, the drug and alcohol use, is a means to try to alleviate some of these other underlying symptoms when a person has not necessarily been able to develop the skills needed or the understanding needed to be able to cope with these types of things. And this is the example of the iceberg. The addiction is the part that we can see, the visible part on the top. And below it is all of these other symptoms that I had just listed off that are contributing to the total dysfunction of the family system and the patterns, the unhealthy behavioral patterns within the person. The next misconception is having parents who abuse substance will hurt their children and set them up for a lifetime of difficulty. Support for the family is a very important factor with helping the child. Support for the counseling, church involvement, healthy social involvement, support for family members, support for the parent who is challenged by substance use. Having parents who don't get help for their challenges will continue to fuel the family dysfunction, but healing can always come to the family. It is beneficial for each family member, parents and children, to seek support and guidance for healing to occur. Substance use can be and often is overcome. When this happens, family life can be rejuvenated, especially if the recovering person is able to face and address the root issues at the heart of the substance use. Misconception number 3. Adult children with a parent who is addicted is likely to become addicted themselves. The risk of substance use for adult children of an addicted person is about 4 times that of a general public. Overall, about 25% of those who grow up in homes with at least one parent who is addicted will struggle with alcoholism later on. These statistics are noteworthy, but hardly as overwhelming as you might expect. Up to 3/4 of those who are immersed in an alcoholic addictive environment during childhood and adolescent years will not encounter similar difficulties in adulthood. A lot of times what we see with children growing up around alcoholism or substance use, it is a consciousness rising experience, a conscious raising experience for most. And it often helps guide the child away from the possibility of repeating this unhealthy pattern. And that's the interesting thing that we see in researching this, is that the majority of the children, as they grow up in this type of environment, learn coping skills that their parent may not have learned that added to the substance use, and therefore they're able to not follow that patterns, especially when the parents or when the family system seeks guidance and support through this process. It's very important to understand a few things about this. And in regards to children are very resilient. Children are resourceful. Children have not learned to hold on to resentments, bitterness, or grudges for wrongdoings. And if they start to do that, it can easily be turned around into healthy patterns as long as it's addressed early on. For this reason, children have a great ability to adapt and heal in these types of situations. And this can happen into early teens and even early adulthood. The transformation can occur whenever the recovery process starts for the parent who is addicted to either drugs or alcohol or both. As long as the process of recovery begins and addresses the whole family system, everybody can gain healing and become healthy. Misconception number 4. Family history is the greatest predictor of alcoholism and substance use. The research indicates that with people who abuse substances, approximately 1/3 of them had a parent who also struggled with addiction. Among those two-thirds, there may be other statistically significant commonalities that help explain the retreat into alcoholism, substance use, such as exposure to childhood abuse, bouts with PTSD, history of depression or anxiety, or any other of a number of underlying causes that may have affected the development of the child. In most cases, we can find similar co-occurring factors among one-third who grew up in households that are affected by addiction, which suggests that cause and effect with alcoholism is complex, individualized, and not easily reducible to simplistic formulas. It's really a case-by-case situation in every one of these causes. Factors that may lead to substance use are underlying undertreated mental health challenges, exposure to substance use culture, and an extreme traumatic experience, either physical or emotional. These are some of the main causes that could lead to substance use. Misconception number 5. Adult children with a parent who is addicted are filled with unresolved resentment toward their parents. This may very well be true for those children who underwent severe physical, sexual, or emotional abuse at the hands of their parent. Healing for children in these types of situations will require family support, professional counsel, and spiritual guidance. Overcoming these destructive emotions can be one of the greatest challenges they may face. For many who did not experience such extensive trauma, forgiveness and compassion for their parents may come more naturally, and often resulting in healing and healthy change. For many, unresolved resentments are refocused to the substance use itself and as a significant source of the family's pain and struggles. Adult children of addicted parents are very resilient and are often kind, loving, and forgiving people. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about helpful hints for addicted parent when engaging the child. It is very important for a parent, when they're dealing with their relationship with their children that has been affected by their substance use, to gain support and guidance and education on how to intentionally develop the ways that they need to speak to their children and engage with their children. It is important first, of course, to focus on themselves and to learn how to develop the coping skills necessary to provide the support that they need to enter recovery and to abstain from the substance use and develop themselves emotionally and spiritually. Then they can engage with their children and start to develop and rebuild the relationships that may have been damaged throughout the years. Some ways that they can do that is, of course, pray for the wisdom to engage with their children. The next way is to bring their emotions under control and to continue to learn new coping skills and certain particular ways to be able to help them with emotional balance. Then the parent can turn the event and outcome over to God and trust in God with the results and learn to be patient too in the process. The parent can pray with their child and start to really bring them into that spiritual development together in that process that the parent may be learning through their own recovery. The parent needs to take ownership for the actions and behaviors of the substance use and how that it occurred and caused damage to the relationship. The parent could ask the child for forgiveness and should ask the child for forgiveness of the decisions, because of the decisions the parent has made and the effect that the decisions that the parent made on the relationship and their role in damaging the relationship. The parent is to commit to change and stay consistent with that commitment, and through time that consistency will build healthy patterns and continue to rebuild the relationship with the parent and the child that has been affected to this. The parent is to express love verbally and physically. Sometimes it can be very difficult for the parent to learn how to express love in a healthy way. there's a lot of forgiveness that needs to take place in these types of situations. And when that forgiveness occurs, first and foremost, the forgiveness has to come to the parent that is addicted and that has struggled with substance use. They need to forgive themselves, and then they'll receive forgiveness too from those around us. And then they need to discuss forgiveness with their children and discuss what that looks like, forgiving their children and receiving forgiveness from their children, and asking for for that forgiveness. Express love verbally and physically. Ask them if they would like to talk, write, or even draw about their feelings in regards to this matter. And then, of course, continue to meet with counsel, whether it be professional counselors, pastoral counsel, guidance and self-help support groups. All of this is very, very important throughout the process of healing in regards to this type of situation. Now I want to talk about 5 helpful tips in regards to this situation. First thing I'd like to talk about is the idea of minding your own business. Now, a lot of these tips can be for the person affected by substance use, the child that may be affected by a parent who is abused or addicted to substances, drugs or alcohol, or it could be family members, it could be neighbors, it could be any other type of social support, teachers, things like that nature. First thing is that reaching out can make a difference. Research has demonstrated that it only takes one caring adult to change the trajectory of a child's life. There's one statement that usually hinders people from wanting to engage in help in supporting someone going through this process, and that statement is it's none of my business. This notion can be very damaging and can hinder the healing process, and for someone to be able to provide help throughout the healing process in these types of situations. It's been ingrained in our society for generations, but care and concern can coexist without creating conflict. For instance, a grandparent who lives in another state can write letters back and forth to their grandchild or older sibling, or an older sibling can make it a point to talk for a few minutes every day on his or her walk to and from school. A teacher or coach can create a positive environment for a child. So there are a lot of different ways to help children that are going through this. And it isn't necessarily just people that are in professional support or help. It can really be anyone involved in the child's life. The next thing that we want to focus on is that your interaction with a child can make a difference. It is demonstrated of healthy living and self-talk that can be life-altering for someone. This can often break the don't trust, don't talk feel notion that many children of addicted parents exhibit. A lot of times there are these unwritten rules in these types of situations, and the child may not feel safe to talk. And so a lot of times these different suggestions are designed to help create a safe environment for the child and for the child to develop trust to be able to share the underlying emotions that are going on within them. A healthy parent can also empower children. The minute you have a non-substance using parent building healthy boundaries with the using parent, children who are watching this learn a great deal from that person, and trust starts to build immediately. And this can be a very powerful way, and the parent that is not using and that is living healthy can leverage this trust and this trust building to create healing and bonding for the parent that is in the recovery process. Another thing that can be very helpful is to explain the disease of alcoholism or substance use. NACOA suggests that explaining these ideas to small children in the following ways. Alcoholism is a sickness. You can make it better. You deserve support yourself. You are not alone. There are people and places that can help. It is helpful for a child to understand what the addicted parent, loved one is dealing with, and children must learn that it's not their responsibility to make their parents better at any age. A lot of times when we help a child to understand that alcohol is a sickness, they can relate to it. Alcoholism can be a very complex problem. And a lot of times, depending on the age of the child, they have difficulty understanding what is actually going on. But they understand sickness, and in most cases they've been through sickness, and they understand that what needs to happen for someone that is sick to get better. And so sometimes when you can relate that to what's going on with alcoholism, you can do a few different things. One is that you can help the child understand that this does not have to be a permanent situation that's going on, that the parent can get better, and that there is a process in order for healing to occur, just like any other sickness. And that's why a lot of times it helps in relating alcoholism to a sickness for a child, because they can make those simple connections when regarding to alcoholism, and then that provides hope. Provides hope and understanding that this is kind of what's going on. Something can be done to help the parent to be healed, and if that takes place, healing can occur, and it can and will happen. Another thing that we can do to help children in these types of situations is to give them a book. Providing a child with a book that either explains alcoholism, substance use, or discusses living in a home with an addicted parent is a simple way of reaching out to a child. There are some resources here on the slide that you can look into in order to be able to gain the resources needed if you know of someone that is in the situation. Another thing that we could do to help a child is direct them to resources. Places to direct children and teens of alcoholic or addicted parents and loved ones. Alateen is a fellowship of young Al-Anon members whose lives have been affected by someone else's drinking. Children of addicted parents, an online community for people ranging from 7 to 30 years of age that have concerns about another family member's substance use. Child Help is a hotline staffed with professional crisis counselors who can provide crisis intervention, information, literature, and referrals to thousands of emergency social services and support resources. Parents Helping Parents, a parent-directed community-based organization. PHP's mission was to develop in response to the need in the community for information, training, and support services for families who have children with special needs and professionals who serve them. These are all different resources that are available. There are a ton of other resources out there that are available that you can connect with via the internet. Also, you can always connect with professional counselors and through church services too, and pastors at churches. One recommendation for this is to contact someone who can help. If you're at a complete loss and don't feel like you can make a difference in the child's life, reach out to someone who is in the role to do something. Talk to the child's guidance counselor at school or someone where they attend church and tell them you're concerned about this child. Although schools can't confirm there is a child by that name attending the school, they can receive the information, and if it's not something that has been witnessed, your call can generate a great conversation within the school system. The NACOA offers downloadable kits on its website for early childhood professionals as well as educators. Pass these on to someone in the position who can help the child. They may be the one person who makes all the difference in their life. This will conclude our training on Breaking the Cycle, Hope for Children with Parents Challenged by Addiction. Thank you so much for being with us, and we hope that the material in this training can help you along the way.